All right, good morning, everybody. Or just the three of us. Yep, it's February 1st. This is the CapN office hours. As always, it's recorded to YouTube just to make sure that's out in the open. And yeah, whatever we talk about will get posted to YouTube later today. All right, so agenda items. Thanks, Faye. Wei, if you want to add yourself to the agenda as well, or to the attendees, that'd be great. Fabrizio sent a message yesterday, I believe, that we basically need to go through and do some upstream reporting to get information back. If you didn't see that, that message was in the CapN Slack. Basically, we need to write an annual report that's just or fill out a form rather. I'm happy to pick up some of this stuff. If anybody's interested in the maintainers track, we have the ability to potentially basically have a go and actually do some presentations for that on February 14th, or deadline's February 14th for that. And then we need to go through, if somebody's interested in going and updating the SIG Cluster Lifecycle and making sure that all of our project links are actually documented in there. I believe they are, but I haven't checked in a while to make sure we're updated. And those are the three agenda items. I'm happy to pick up that first item. I've got for filling out the form and doing the annual report about that. Faye, if you want to help me out, I'll probably send you some messages and we can go back and forth.
Can we collaborate? I just click that link. Just one of us can do, or we can have a call, that kind of thing.
Why don't you and I chat over Slack about this? Or if you want to start filling that out, you're more than welcome to, and we can just chat over Slack to continue it. However you want to handle that.
I don't know. Let me see. Grab some. Okay, I think you can do it, and we can discuss about the content if you like.
Okay, sounds good. I'll probably send messages to you and Charles about that, just as the leads for this, and make sure that we're all on board.
It's just status report, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think just two main things that we can report. One is the CAPI overall architecture and the progress on that, and another thing is maybe the VC multi-cluster can be part of the effort in the past year. It's two major items, in my opinion.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I'll start filling that out, and then we can chat over Slack about that. Yeah, if anybody's interested, the ping Fabrizio about the maintainer track, if we want to actually submit a talk for that. And yeah, I just went and checked the community doc as well, and all our links are up to date and should be reflected in there already. So we have no action on that final bullet point in there.
But I think the maintenance track should be SIG cluster, right? It should be combined one. They shouldn't give one for KPI, in my opinion.
So what they do is they basically nominate projects across the board, because there's so many cluster API provider projects that they basically go through and they're like, hey, we've got some stuff from these people, and basically let whoever is the most interesting go through and do a presentation about it. So let the CFP actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, in multi-tenancy, what we do is because we only have three, so just let three people talk about three.
Yeah, I think they basically let like most interesting and picked up by the CFP reviewers for those types of things instead, or they go through and do it themselves before.
So what do you think? I don't have a strong opinion on this because we have presented both in the past.
Yeah, I didn't submit anything this year for EU. I'm not sure if you did, and I don't believe, Wei, did you submit anything for EU this year for KubeCon?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Anything.
Okay, cool. The deadline already went past, so I'm okay passing on this one for right now. I don't think we're in a place, I personally don't think we're in a place to show off anything too crazy, since we're still in the middle of a bunch of major work. But yeah, happy to let somebody do that if they're interested.
EU has passed? Oh, I didn't realize.
CFP, the original CFP for it has passed. They're doing, I think review announcements should be going out in the next couple of weeks or something like that. If I remember right, maybe I'm wrong.
The submission deadline has passed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are where we are. I've got an update. I'm trying to get somebody internally to help out with the image builds. I wasn't able to end up picking it up and do all of that stuff. So we've got some tracking issues internally to try and get somebody to help out and pick up the post merge.
How about NA? NA is May?
Say that again.
North America?
Oh, those have not, that hasn't come out yet. I don't know what the schedule is for when that will be. KubeCon.io should have.
Last year is much earlier than May, I think. Last year is maybe 1 or 2 months after the EU was.
Yeah, they pretty much did the CFP was right at, yeah, exactly like what I was saying, right after. Let's see. They don't even have the CFP information up yet on the Linux page, on the the KubeCon NA
Okay, that's fine.
internal page app. So
Yeah, we have new people.
hi Anna, would you like to introduce yourself? You're more than welcome to. If not, that's okay. All right. Okay. Does anybody have any other pieces to add to the agenda today?
I think we can. If you want to continue last week's topic, we can. I mean, yeah, just 3 action items. Let's finish. So let's see. Yeah, I think the second. So second, the conclusion is we probably won't propose for EU, right? So for the second bullet for EU,
Yep.
are we going to present for SIG? No.
Would you like to?
I don't have anything new. I don't have anything. I mean, interesting.
Right. So let's say that we're going to skip this one, and potentially try to submit something for NA this year.
For NA.
Okay. All right. All right, cool. That sounds good. So Chris is going to pick up this. Chris will pick up annual report, and then this should be updated just to make sure that those are covered. All right, and then you were saying, do you want to continue the conversation from last week about the quota?
If you guys want. So
yeah,
I don't have
quota. We had a discussion with Chris, and I'm going to publish versions shortly in 2 or 3 days. If Chris has time to review it before we submit out. So then we can start to see the code is in line with your expectation or not. We can discuss on front of that.
So yeah, so I'm going to have I mean the proposal, architecture proposal. I mean, let's go through the proposal first, right?
Yeah, the basically is just adding a plugin is last time when we discussed very similar to the current plugin we designed for the resource.
Yeah. So So I'd like to go through the way that Charles was doing for NCP with the proposal. So
okay.
So we can discuss. I mean, finalize the design there.
Okay. Then I'll write something out.
Yeah, I would like to do that before. I mean, coding is definitely fine, but I would like to high level agreement on the design first.
That makes sense.
Okay. Then I will take time and give to you.
Yeah.
So can we basically just take the issue that's currently filed? I think it was called like the scheduler contention, and basically change the description in there to represent what the design is going to be, and then we can have the conversations over that GitHub issue, and then we can reference that when we make the pull request. Is that cool with everybody?
Yeah, sure. I think that's okay. And I know in the proposal page, so we should be all agree with that proposal and this.
Yeah.
I mean, merge that proposal PR, then which means then go with the implementation. So.
Okay. So you want to actually do okay? Yeah, that makes much more sense. All right. So in the docs folder, we'll make.
Yeah, docs. We have a proposal for NCP, right? Entire NCP.
Right?
I would like any kind of architectural change or major feature, we go through that process with document.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Proposal first. That makes sense. All right.
Yeah, because I still want to see, because in that document you will see clear. We need to clearly state the use cases and the
You're absolutely right.
mechanism and the scope. So that's the three things that I care most.
You're absolutely right. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah,
Which
because we're at the end of the day.
state a use case and scope, and another thing, what
Mechanism, I mean,
mechanism.
use case, mechanism, and scope.
Okay. Okay. I'll write down this. And,
Got it in the agenda as well for you. Wei.
okay.
All right. Thank you so much. That sounds good. We can definitely get that moving forward.
So for the NCP, yeah, because we haven't tracked for NCP controller side of things. So if you look at the multi-tenancy Slack channel, there's one guy, Samuel, who was trying to use VC.
Okay. Did not see this. Yep. In a kind cluster.
Yeah, it's interesting. So he's trying to do something like use VC model to do training. That's perfect. That makes perfect sense. That's perfect. Make perfect sense, right? You have a you have a big, relatively big Kubernetes, but support training 20 guys. You give each guy a VC.
Interesting.
And he's going to import a web browser console with kubectl support, so people can directly type kubectl through the web console.
Really? I mean, they could use the dashboard, right? Isn't there like a whole, you can supply manifest through the Kubernetes dashboard to do this kind of function?
I think so. I think I'm not as complicated as dashboard. He's just trying to do something.
Gotcha.
Easy for his,
use case. Yeah, all right.
Self-learning user experience. But anyway, that's fine. I mean the UI layer, so that's perfectly okay. In terms of he's trying to, interesting in that he's keep asking how to do the upgrade. So he's saying he wants to upgrade virtual cluster. I don't understand in the first place why they want to do that, but I guess maybe he's trying to explain the API innovation or change, or the API changes of the different Kubernetes version. That's also possible. I don't know why they care about the upgrade. But anyway, the upgrade with class version definitely not that easy. I mean, not.
Yeah.
So I was referring to KPN.
Sure.
But if he was talking about self-learning, I doubt when he's going to take KPN. But anyway, I'm asking. So yeah, I was saying if he can join the meeting, that would be perfect, because we want to understand the use case more.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It sounds like he's basically trying to use, so if he's running training jobs in VC, that sounds like it's going to be long running, and they want to be able to upgrade the cluster in place, which is something that we just currently don't support at all.
Training job? No, let me see. Is it training job? I thought.
Is that what you said? Am I reading this wrong, or did I hear you incorrectly?
No. It's not actually training. It's learning.
Oh, I see. Oh, wow.
He's teaching somebody. He's teaching somebody use Kubernetes.
I see. Okay. I was hearing learning and thinking like training. Okay.
Yeah, it's more like personal, small scale. Project. He just want to train somebody to use Kubernetes. He doesn't want to deploy every individual Kubernetes. So with VC, just give them a control plan, and they just maintain 2-3 hosts and host 30 people kind of thing.
Okay. I mean, that's a really cool use case. It's something we definitely aren't encompassing right now.
So that's why. But yeah, I'm curious why they care about the upgrade, because if you want to train somebody, I would say upgrade with the last thing you want to talk with a new guy.
Right. Yeah, that's not just a small task to try and pick up. Okay, interesting. All right, I put it on the agenda that we'd like to understand the use case of this. Are you in conversation with them already?
He said he's trying to join, but anyway, but maybe you can chime in if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I'll drop a notice here as well. Cool. Interesting use case.
Yeah. So, but for the NCP, so are we all set, or we have
So
really ready?
Charles, we merged that pull request. I think the biggest thing that we're on now is we need to start moving over to using the nested machine design and the nested machine deployment, which brings on a bunch of changes for us that we need a design proposal. We've dropped the ball on our side since we're not actually active on this right now. So we don't have basically somebody to go work through that design, but that'll in essence be the thing that makes it so that KCP works fully natively with CAPN, being the machines that actually do the operations, or the fake machines that actually deploy the control plane nodes like we've been talking about. We have some internal tracking issues so that we can get somebody on this. We just haven't had the headcount to do it. So
yeah, I think maybe it's worth we put a roadmap MD in the KPN.
okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so people can know what's going to happen next, because KPN is kind of a little bit tricky in the sense that part of it is kind of virtual, but part of it is kind of it's developing. I mean, it's changing drastically in the past few months, even in the design.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you go with it? Can you start with it? Just a clear,
yeah,
simple roadmap about what's going to happen.
Sure, we can definitely do that. What is next? What's coming up next? Yeah, that's a great idea. That'll give people the visibility and give people a chance to pick things up if they want to sink their teeth into it. I like that. Yeah, because the issues are relatively hard to manage from that standpoint as like a roadmap for these types of things. So, okay. Cool. Yeah, I put that on the agenda, and I took a note for myself to start that doc for us.
Yeah, and another thing is maybe we can. I don't know. I don't think the homepage is pretty simple. So maybe we can describe what current, CAPI or NCP can provide. I mean, what currently.
Okay.
So,
all right. So basically a current
where we are
well.
now. Yeah, where we are now, because the design is changing so drastically. So maybe looking at the design document is not enough now. So because I was thinking yesterday, if I had that 2 documents, I can just point the Samuel that 2 documents, say with KPN current controller, you can do this. Will this satisfy your requirement?
That's a great idea. I love it. Okay.
Otherwise, I have to say, I mean, I only know cluster version. I know you can manually change cluster version, but
sure.
I say it's kind of, I didn't put the word deprecated. I just say it's just a workaround. So the people will ask, what's your supported version? I say, no, NCP. What does NCP do now?
For the cluster version, in their messages, were they basically asking if they could update the upstream cluster version as well to point to newer Kubernetes versions?
I mean, they just try to use Kubernetes a lot higher than 1.16, because 1.16 was about 2 years ago. So
right.
I said you can change it to 1.18, but the problem is I didn't tell them, but apparently the arguments have all the supported parameters. Some may be deprecated. You need to go through everything to make sure that parameter works fine.
We've got some of these working that we can at least upgrade it from our own setup.
I think we can upgrade to 1.20 so if you want, but I think we don't choose to do that because I think NCP will handle it more nicely in the sense that we will have a supported version for up to 120, even 121. So that's the reason I didn't say that I'm going to upgrade it with 120, because so I kind of push back to say, if you want to change it, just rechange it manually. So
yeah,
that is just an example. I'm not saying that we will always use that one. That's just an example.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can deal with it that way. I think that's
so definitely a much better way to do this is like using NCP. You just need to specify the version. That's it. All the parameter the controller already handle it. The template already handle it.
Right.
I just didn't say that. Saying.
Okay.
I mean, class version is not unless we provide full templates for class versions, but.
Right, which seems like it should be out of the scope of what we should be doing. We don't need to maintain those versions since we do have a path forward in the long run that's outside of the scope of cluster versions. No, I agree with that. We don't need to support both sides. Okay, cool. So put together a roadmap. We still need to do images for releasing so that he can also build, or that anybody can build off of some Prow-based images for virtual cluster. We need to do the form for the annual reports, and then Wei, you're going to put together a proposal PR similar to what's in like Doc's proposal for the plugin implementation before we put in the pull request for code.
Yeah, I think we can just refer what Chao was proposing for SCP. I mean, just follow that.
Yeah.
Follow that format.
I just read that, and I know what you are going to do.
Cool. There should be a template as well in that folder that you can basically just
I saw
follow.
it. Just
Perfect.
Out and see it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, that sounds good. What else is going on?
I don't anything. Yeah, we can discuss. Chao, do you have anything? Do you want to talk more about your project, or
Yeah, how's that going? Did you end up doing that presentation to the multi-tenancy group?
Do you have a chance to look at it, Chris?
I didn't get a chance to yet. So if it was presented, I missed it.
Ah.
Yeah, I presented before I'm not sure, after the Christmas, 2 weeks,
Oh.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay, so I should just go back and watch the recording, I assume.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and any feedbacks and suggestion will be welcome.
Cool. That sounds good.
Maybe Chao, if you have, we don't have any agenda right now, maybe spend 10 minutes to just show Chris.
Oh, okay, sure thing. You wanted to? I will not do a demo. Maybe I just give.
No demo. Just kind of idea. Let Chris know.
Oh, okay, sure. So that is so the project I introduced in the multi-tenancy group is another multi-tenancy solution, but that is a lightweight multi-tenancy solution because
maybe you can show the slides, some of the architecture slides. That'd be.
Okay, sure. Let me see, where is it?
Yeah, I think within this small group you can get more feedbacks.
Okay, sure. Give me just 1 second. Okay, Chris, can I share the screen? Okay.
You should have access.
Could you see the slides, the PDF slides?
Yep.
Okay. So first, some of the background of this project. So why I come up with this multi-tenancy solution, why I didn't choose the virtual cluster, because we just have a very small group of people to maintain the cluster and all the servers, and we have a large group of users. So if we create a control plan for each users or each teams, then that can import very heavy maintenance burdens, and we do not have enough person to do that. So we have to come up with some new solution. But this one is not a replacement of virtual cluster. It's more like a lightweight, another options for doing the multi-tenancy. So the basic idea is, so the basic idea is we are going to set up a proxy server in front of the API server. And inside the proxy server, we will capture the request sent from the tenants or users. And then we will change the contents of the proxy server. So the contents of the request, for example, if a user create a pods, then normally the HTTP URL will include the namespace and the pods. And we are doing things very similar to virtual cluster, as we are going to use the namespace to on a supercluster, or the we call it upstream Kubernetes. So on a supercluster, we are going to put each tenants in their independent namespace with the tenant's ID as the prefix. So what we did is in a Kubizoo, we call this proxy Kubizoo. So inside the Kubizoo, we will capture the request sent from the tenants, and then we change the contents of the tenants of this request, add the prefix to this namespace of, for example, the user create a pod, we will add a prefix, the tenant's prefix to the namespace, and then on the supercluster, we will create the pods in the corresponding namespace. And the same for the response, send it back from the supercluster. We will also change the contents of the response and return it back to the user. So from the user's perspective, they will say, when they try to get all the pods, they will only get a pod from their namespace. So it's more like a view level isolation, very lightweight virtualization. So user will feel like they are the only users from for this specific cluster. So that's the basic idea. Yeah.
Very interesting. How does it work with I think 2 questions. How does it work with CRDs? If it does.
Yeah, it works with CRD. So CRD is something very different. So let me go to the CRD page. So resource. Yeah. So CRD is one of the cluster scope resource, right? So the thing is like so for the CRD, we normally we normally use the group version kind to distinguish different CRD, right? So for example, here we have 2 CRD from 2 tenants. Both of them wanted to create some CRD called app, and so in the Kubizoo, we will change the group name of this CRD to, for example, the tenant prefix followed by the group name, original group name, and then also we will change the name of the CRD. So on the supercluster, we will have 2 CRD. One is called the app tenant 1, another one is called app tenant 2, and they are located in 2 different groups. So later when a user creates a CRD, for example, the tenant 1 want to create an app CRD, app CR, then it will just create app tenant 1 CR on the supercluster. Yeah, that's for the CRD.
Okay, and then you basically do augment the like cube service host in every single pod to point back to, I guess the proxy is basically running as like as in essence a front proxy like aggregate API server in or not even aggregate API server, just like a physical proxy in front that's going and rewriting those requests. So anytime even a controller running in the cluster would point through this, and based on the namespace it came from, it would do the tenant prefixing for this. Okay.
Yeah. So all the controller will talk to the proxy directly. So the controller will not talk to the supercluster API server. Yeah.
Cool.
And the proxy is, it's very like aggregated API server, but we come up with another project for gateway framework. So that one can help us to build up a gateway API server. And then we can put in some other logic into the gateway API server, like this multi-tenancy logic or admission logic or certification logic into that framework. And that gateway will be always sit in front of the original API server.
Okay.
To deal with the things. Yeah.
Very interesting. How do you handle admission webhooks?
Admission webhook.
Yeah.
Okay. So we didn't support a webhook for now. Yeah, we are still working on that. Webhook can be a little bit tricky because that one webhook has, we have to install the webhook on a supercluster. So that and also webhook related to many like network things. So for now, we are using just a flat network inside our in our internal case. So we are not normally users are not using webhook. So we are not dealing with webhook now. But we are still try to find a best solution to support a webhook. Yeah.
Nice. That's fantastic. This is super cool. I know we had internal chats about a very similar solution to this at one point, trying to figure out how we could do something like this. Okay, other questions. So off-the-shelf tools, do they just work out of the box? So like if you wanted to deploy a normal controller with off-the-shelf CRDs, do you have to do any, does anybody on your team have to do any changes to make that possible? Like barring it using admission webhooks. So like we couldn't deploy cert manager, for example, but could you deploy, I don't know, a random operator that just needs CRDs? Nothing changes for those use cases, or do they have to? Okay.
Yeah, so we can deploy normal, just basic CRD or basic controller or operator that wanted to monitor some CRD or things. That will work. Yeah, CRD cool. And that works.
Yeah, I have one question. So based on your model, everything goes through the proxy which you call the Kubizoo. So in this case, your tenant goes through a Kubizoo, which is proxy. So in this case, still they share with at least a same K master, which is the API server, correct?
Correct.
And if there is a noisy tenant which send out a lot of requests or whatever heavy loaded command to the API server, how you can isolate these things based on this architecture?
So the tenant fairness and the priority is handled inside the Kubizoo. So we leverage the priority and let me go to the fairness model. Okay, so that is the fairness model of for the tenants. So inside the Kubizoo, as I just mentioned, Kubizoo is like the aggregated API server. So you can treat it as a API server. So after the 1.18, the API server import has a new mechanism called priority and fairness. And we leverage that mechanism. So inside the Kubizoo, we will create the flow and the priority level for each tenant, and ensure that there will be, if there is a malicious tenant or noisy tenants, they will not affect other tenants. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you?
Interesting.
Yeah, I think you have to identify tenants through the certification, right?
Yeah, correct. That's another good point. So how can we distinguish tenant from each other? How can we tell who is the sender of a specific request? So that is what we did. So each time when we create a new tenant object, is a CRD inside the Kubizoo server. So we create this tenant object, and the Kubizoo server will sign the certification for each tenant. And inside the certificate, in the common name, we will put the tenant ID as the prefix inside the common name, and also the tenant ID in the organization unit fields. And later, when a tenant send a new request, we will first analyze the HTTPS certificate. We'll extract the tenant ID. Then we can identify who is the sender of this specific request. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so for tenant object you created your Kubizoo, not in the underlying super.
Correct. So yeah. So you can right now you can treat Kubizoo as just like an API server. So it's like an API server on top of another API server. But this API server is just for doing the proxy, and this API server is connect to a etcd or other metadata store that will store this tenant information.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So why you don't put it in the underlying super?
Yeah, we can put it in a super. Say we can have different prefix for etcd store used by the supercluster one just to store the tenants. That's another option. That's okay. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I was thinking what because Kubizoo is not stateless, it actually has state, right?
Correct. We need to keep the tenant states, use it to managing the tenants information.
Interesting. Let me think about it. Okay. Yeah, I haven't fully thought through it, but
yeah, it's interesting. Have you, so from the CRD standpoint, what do you do, if anything, so far, to help contain the potential, well, the amount of CRDs and things like that that customers can, or that users of your system can apply to this? The reason why I call this out is I would say that out of all of the controllers I've seen in Kubernetes, the CRD controller is one of the weirdest and heavy processing, especially from CPU standpoint, as you add more and more and more and more CRDs to an individual control plane, because the OpenAPI spec has to basically be regenerated any single time that there's a change to a CRD. And so like, I know we've seen like up to 30 seconds to a minute of queue depth latency before on trying to basically regenerate the OpenAPI spec because of giving people the ability to change in a super cluster or in your terms like the upstream cluster for this CRDs. Is there ways that you can protect against that?
You mean if a user frequently update a CRD, then that can be a very obvious like overheads or latencies, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we didn't actually consider about this because for now, in our case, like most of our user is not the real Kubernetes users. So we have like a runtime platform on top of the Kubernetes servers. So what exports, what user can see is just like a website or just like a application interface. They just submit their application and we will help them to deploy.
Gotcha. So this just isolates that one layer deeper and gives like even more protections about tenants spanning multiple namespaces and tenants having workloads that potentially have a security boundary outside of just the pod. Okay, cool.
Correct. Yeah, interesting. But that can be okay. That can be a very good case because we never consider about that, because in our case we only need to consider several CRD, and that CRD is managed by us. But sometimes, yes, user will want to create some CRD, but we never met the user frequently create a new CRD. Yeah, that's a very good point. We'll take some time to investigate it. Yeah.
We have a bit of periodic automation that basically goes and doesn't apply against a bunch of files, and that triggers a re-reconciliation, which is just incredibly messy. And I mean, it's a thing that we currently do that we shouldn't be realistically, which is basically just like constantly trying to make sure that the current state is equal and not using a controller to actually do that, and thus triggering an update to CRD, every handful of minutes. Causing every single cluster to have those re-reconciled, which is a lot of wasted resources at the end of the day. But okay, cool.
Yeah,
this is interesting. So is this deployed into production already, or are you where are you in the life cycle of this?
Yeah, we have used it for some of the production environment already. Yeah. So, but later we will see if we can apply it to some other generic case, as you just mentioned, like if we allow user to frequently create a CRD, like in a public cloud case, can we use this solution as well to provide serverless Kubernetes? Yeah.
Neat. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Does anything change there under the hood? No, nothing changes from a node model or anything like that. It's all the same operations. No. You still block things with RBAC so that people can't get access to node level resources or anything like that. I'm assuming nothing changes there.
So for the RBAC, so we will use an impersonate header. So when we send a request to the supercluster, we will put an impersonate header in a request to ensure that a tenant will not touch things outside of their own namespace. Yeah, that's another part. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Is this is the code base somewhere that's live, like public rather?
We are still working on the open source version, but we plan to do it. We plan to do it at least 2 months to see if we can have an open source version and talk to the CNCF sandbox. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this works. It's very similar to they went even farther down this path than you all at this point. But I want to say Tencent was doing something very similar to this. I always forget the actual name, but I think it was like at one point called like Taurus Cloud or something. I'll find the link and drop it in case you haven't seen it.
Okay, that'll be great. Yeah. I really wanted to see what they did. Yeah.
Yeah, they have something that's basically like a proxy like this that rewrites their request as they go through the pipeline, and exposes like tenant clusters in essence, very similar to this, but it sounds like this is much lighter weight from that standpoint. Very cool.
Okay, thank you.
So will Kubizun do the authentication for all the requests, or is it just don't skip that and just change the payload of the HTTP?
Yeah, the Kubizun will do the authentication for each tenant.
Oh, because Kubizun generated all the PKI.
Right, so correct. The certification and the PKI for each tenant. So the Kubizun will be responsible for doing authentication and authorization for the tenant's request.
But Kubizun cannot do RBAC, right? RBAC still happen in the.
Yeah, correct. So the little secret here is we are going to create the cluster role and the role on the supercluster for each tenant. So the supercluster is the real place doing the RBAC, but we are going to create the role and the cluster role on the supercluster by Kubizun.
So yeah. So I'm guessing for all the Kubernetes API, the Kubizun should do filtering for any other contents that are not related to this tenant. That's doable. If tenant do list node, are you going to report everything?
What's the question? The tenant deletes on?
No. If the tenant list host.
List on host. Oh, okay.
List node.
Okay, so if the tenants, for now, we are not going to expose the nodes to the user. So you can treat it as like the virtual kubelet case. So when a tenant try to list the nodes, it will get nothing. So we try to disclose the nodes to the tenants, hide the nodes from tenants.
Yeah, that's possible, but in other sense, if the scheduler report errors, it's a little bit harder for tenant to pass that error if it related to the node capacity.
Correct. Yeah. Right. So yeah, because of our use case, we are not going to that the tenants feel like they are the only user of the cluster, but they are not feel like they are control a real like full Kubernetes cluster has all these nodes and
yeah, because I think this comes to exactly the same problem that we were talking in the VC land about the capacity planning, right? Here you also need to have a story about capacity planning, because it looks like serverless, but it is not serverless. You have a capacity limitation on the super. Even in your case, but in your case, it's probably even harder if you have because the scheduler probably will report information about the individual node, but you want to hide that, abstract that. So you have another difficulty is are you going to pass that scheduler reported messages on the pod status or all the events? Right. In the events, they probably even tell you what's the available capacity and what's your request capacity. So that's a little bit tricky to report the available capacity for a node. So that that's a reason you probably need to think about kind of how do you do. Are you going to support the quota?
Yeah, we are going to support the quota. So that is something we are working on right now. It's because in this case, I think our solution is similar to. I don't have this one here. So so in our case, the problem we try to solve is a cross namespace quota controller, things like that, because tenants can still create things cross namespace. So we are still looking for some more generic solutions that can help us to manage the cross namespace quota. That is what we are working on right now. Right now we are working on a controller called cluster namespace quota controller. Yeah, that is things we're working on. Share the very similar idea as the default quota controller. So that is things. And
because so if you want to do that, so that's the reason I'm asking that. So I'm assuming that controller should run in the super, not in the Kubizun API server, where it is run.
It will going to run on a super cluster. Yes.
Yeah. So in the super, then it probably need to know all the tenant information, basically the tenant CRD. So that's the reason I'm asking. Are you going to put tenant CRD in a separate API server? So you need to watch two API servers.
So we are going to create another CRD. So this CRD will call the cross namespace resource quota, and that CRD will be created on a super cluster. And for each tenant, we are going to create one cross namespace resource quota CR.
Oh, okay, so
that's our solution. Yeah.
So in that CR, you need to specify the tenant name, then use the name to do the prefix search for the namespaces.
Yes.
Yeah, another option to play with the cross namespace quota is in the scheduler, that you can still have another layer of queuing to decide which resource need to be scheduled or not. So this is another way to do the resource quota management. Have you think about that direction?
That requires us to change the scheduler source code. But,
no. The scheduler source code is have a plugin, so you just need to add more plugins. There's several guys working on the plugin, so you just add.
I think you just referred. This is KubeQ, right? The KubeQ project. So
kind of
just changing the queuing logic.
Yeah, not fully for that, but it can be converted, or they can change shape a little bit on that direction. But there already exists some open source projects that put the queue management in the scheduler just for the quota. There are several projects available currently.
But that one requires still us required to use some other CRD, right? For the queue, do we need to use?
You can just use your quota CRD. The point is just don't implement a controller. You just add a scheduler plugin. In that plugin, you use your CRD. But there is differences in the sense that if you just different user experience, right? If you want to do the mission in the webhook, so you can even prevent that resource from being created. But if you want to use scheduler, that resource will be created. Just that part won't be scheduled, just in pending state.
Mhm,
It's depend. Are you going to if the user's usage exceeds the quota, are you going to report an error or just expect user to wait? So that's the difference here.
Yeah, we are going to report an error, but that is in our case, it's more like the user got some error. They will not try to solve by themselves. They will report to the cluster administrator. So that is us. So we are going to see, okay, that's the error. You exceed your quota. I will let you know you're going to purchase some more machine, or there's something wrong with our side from our side, and I will try to help you to fix. Yeah. So we are not going to that user feel like, okay, I am really the administrator of this cluster. Yeah, I am just one of the tenants of the cluster. So it's more lightweight. Yeah, that's why we call it a very lightweight solution. Yeah.
Interesting. This is super cool. It's nice. It's nice to see new examples. I dropped you a link to what I was talking about. I think we've talked about it before. It was
Okay.
Arctos that I was bringing up. So
yeah, thanks. Nice.
So are you going to implement this in your internal project, or you just propose it and hopefully someone in the community can help out?
We have already implemented this one. So
Okay.
yeah, we have already used it in a production environment for a couple weeks, couple months. So the plan is we are going to make it open source ready, and we will have some open source version in 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
thanks for showing us. And yeah, thanks for giving us a preview of what was in there. I'll go check out the rest of that from the multi-tenancy working group. Sounds like a really interesting project.
Okay. Nice.
Cool, folks. We only have a couple minutes left. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up before we break for the day and meet next week? All right, y'all. I'm going to end the recording. Y'all have a wonderful day.